Hello and welcome to another episode of the Friendship Podcast with me, Jong. This is the first episode of the new year, and I could not think of any better way to start this year than one of my favorite performers, one of my dream shoots, and now a dream fulfilled guest on the Friendship Podcast on the casting couch with us today.
Casting couch. Oh my god.
Is the most amazing Dutch baby. Dutch, thank you very much for spending your time. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for an awesome shoot. That was so much fun.
Yeah, we just finished my first shoot with Dutch, so it was such a treat because I think I was spoiled to shoot something so easy and so quick, and all the shots look great. And the hard part happens now when we start picking the shots because there's too many shots to pick from, but it's a good problem to have. But before we get into the nitty gritty of stuff and talk about your passions, the day job, the night job, to learn from you and your experience, the people want to know from the horse's mouth, who is Dutch Baby?
Oh god. So a Dutch baby is actually it's a pancake that's made in a cast iron skillet. And you put it in the oven and it gets kind of puffy around the edges. And you can fill it with whatever you want. You can make a savory one or a sweet one. And when I named myself, most people, I guess, didn't know what a Dutch baby was. I thought this was common knowledge.
Interesting.
So most people are like, "Are you Dutch?" But I'm not.
It's the Dutch baby term from
I think it's like a Pennsylvania Dutch
I was
thing.
gonna say it might be Pennsylvania Dutch, Southern, I was even thinking New Orleansy.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, maybe.
Okay.
But I'm an actor 1st. I'm a playwright, burlesque performer, and I just love making. I love doing art. I have a dog whom I love very much. Shout out to Mason.
Mason.
If you see this, go to sleep.
Go to bed, Mason.
Go to bed, Mason.
Um,
Yeah, so that's who I am as a person, just an artist. And I love collaborating with other people.
And most of the guests on the Fun Shoot podcast I've met through New York nightlife, particularly burlesque and the sideshow scene. And I've seen you in a bunch. You still have your monthly at Freddy's, the Double Dutch?
Not currently, no. We're kind of taking a pause, maybe looking for a venue that has a stage. I used to produce at a venue called the Bowery Electric.
Nice.
But they wanted a cut of the ticket sales that was a little bit out of budget.
Like producer problems. Super difficult to run these shows. So
I just think it's a lot easier to take advantage of musicians. So a lot of these venues with stages, they're able to swindle money out of desperate musicians. I mean, no tea, no shade, but it was a ridiculous deal.
Hey, you gotta make your money. Everybody's hustling. Everybody's trying to squeeze that last dollar from somebody else. But,
exactly.
It's nice if it's like mutually benefiting. When it's not, it's tough. But again, I know you from the burlesque scene. I've seen a lot of your shows. It's always great. Like from the listeners or the viewers right now, you might not see this, but she's a giant. That's my thing, but she's really tall. It's
6 foot without heels.
So basically, she's only like 1-2 inches taller than me. It's like
Just a little bit.
But I always love learning, and something that I've kind of made a signature of the show is, we see a lot of each other. We have a lot of friends in the industry. We hang out in a semi or professional setting, but it's sometimes fairly rarely do these collaborators really sit down and talk and learn about the etymology of that person. So like I'm always wondering, like, I know you're from nightlife, so tell me about the day job.
Yeah. So I am a full-time performer. I'm an actor. I'm going to plug my show real quick. I'm currently in a show in Times Square at Carmine's, of all places. If you've been in a cab lately, you might have seen the advertisement. It's called Speakeasy Die Softly. It's an immersive dinner theater experience. I play a jazz singer named Lucy Morals, which is really funny because I'm a burlesque performer.
No, your morals are very, very tight.
So yeah, tight.
1,000%.
I do kids parties, so I do face painting. I'm a professional bubble blower.
Wait, what?
I blow bubbles for money, like giant bubbles. Like I put people inside of bubbles.
Yeah, it's a skill.
It's a skill. Oh yeah,
I've seen them in parks and in children's parties, and I tried trying to put somebody in the thing. It's difficult.
It's a lot of fun. It's messy, but it's fun. I do restaurant work from time to time. I'm a hustler. Yeah. I do a little bit of everything.
And that's what I love really putting into the forefront of the narrative of the content that we try to make here is like people with passions. These passions didn't. It's really difficult to maintain the things that we want to do. So much so that we're doing other jobs to do the job that we actually want.
My taxes are a nightmare.
Oh, I could only imagine. But so you're doing all of these things,
Oh, and of course, because you're wearing this shirt, I am a go-go dancer at Lucky 13 Saloon in Gowanus.
Yeah. And the shows in the back are great. People are always awesome. And again, you'll see this walking up and down the bar on the pole,
smacking my head on the ceiling,
on the Jack Daniel chandeliers.
Yep.
On the regular. So that's that's the cool part about the city. You see amazing beauty in the most obscure, unique, fun places. But that's the thing. So how did you get into the performance life so much so that you're doing all of these other things to keep on doing the dream?
Yeah, so I knew I wanted to be a performer since I was like 5 years old. I did children's theater growing up. I went to a performing arts high school. And then I got into NYU, Tisch, Playwrights Horizons Theater School. And that's why I moved to the city.
Yeah.
And at Playwrights Horizons, first of all, I didn't know this until later, but one of my teacher's assistants in a movement class is a really well-known drag king, drag performer, God Complex.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Which is I didn't know that when we were in school, but then it's so funny. I saw them at a gig and we were both performing, and it was like the Spider-Man meme where you're like pointing at each other, like, oh my god. And then I had a friend who did drag. She approached me and she was like, hey, would you like to do drag? And at the time I was like, oh, no, I don't want to dress up as a boy. Why would I do that? Because like I didn't really know. And she was like, okay, well, what about burlesque? And I said, what's that? So I go home and I Google it. And the first thing that comes up is the movie with Christina Aguilera.
Which is totally the farthest away from what real burlesque is.
Olive to Party does a great bit while she's hosting sometimes. There's not a single second of burlesque in that entire movie.
Yeah. Everybody jokes that it should have been titled Cabaret, but Cabaret was already taken.
Yeah, I think Olive says something like they Googled synonyms to cabaret and burlesque came up. And I was like, well, this is interesting. But then I saw a video of this French performer, and I'm going to butcher her name because I don't speak French. I think it's called Sucre d'Orge, which means candy cane.
Okay.
And I saw a video of her performing, and she was doing this flamingo act with feather fans. And I was like, oh my God, this is everything I want to be in my whole life. And little 19-year-old me goes on like Amazon and like Dolls Kill before that got canceled, and like buys a one-piece lace teddy and a little necklace. And the first show I ever performed at was at Bazaar Bar.
Yep,
if you remember, rest in peace. I kept my drink ticket from that night. I still have it. But I remember I was stripping to Why Don't You Do Right, the Jessica Rabbit version, of course, in my store-bought cheapo lingerie that I did not
So you're doing it the correct way.
Yeah. And then my feather boa is falling apart. And I remember it comes time for me to take my top off. And I was like, oh God, like once I do this, I can never be the same. And then I took off my clothes and people started cheering. And I was like, oh my God, wait,
it's fun.
No one died. I'm the same person that I was before I took my clothes off in public. So I realized that I liked it, and I've been whoring myself out ever since.
Yeah, and that's the cool part about seemingly risque or something sometimes misunderstood art forms like burlesque, and it's sometimes a little too associated with other different dancing arts.
Yeah.
But it is the intersection of or where people come from to get to burlesque is weird. Some people saw it somewhere and got inspired. Some people use it as therapy to work on their shyness. Some people it's like, oh, I'm a dancer. It's an easy pivot or it's an easy sidestep to it. So it's kind of like nice to hear all about these stories that somebody walking up to you and say like, you should do drag. Maybe it's because of the hype. I
will never forget. Someone approached me while I was in a burlesque costume once, and like this gave me a lot of complicated feelings about like my own gender expression and sexuality. And I don't see it as an insult necessarily, but someone approached me and said, "Oh, your drag is very convincing."
Oh.
And I was like, 19 and just like, oh.
Can be formative, can be traumatic. It's good that you absorbed it in a more positive way, I guess.
Yeah, I just kind of sat with that for a second. I was like, oh, yeah. But people are very shocked when they see me in heels.
Oh, yeah, I dig it. Most people do, but again, to each his own.
To each their own.
You can't yuck anybody's yum. It's the world right now. But that's that brings me to the next part of the question is like I know because we've talked about it. You intro a lot about your brand and your style out there, but I would like you to describe if you bump into somebody that is a producer of a show or whatever, it's like, oh, you're a performer. What's Dutch Baby's brand?
Dutch Baby is like a little ridiculous. It's like I try sometimes. I try so hard to be sultry and like really sexy, but it is so impossible for me to do any act without being a little goofy. So I think everything I do just comes from a place of lightheartedness and just here to express myself. The more I do burlesque, the harder it is to separate my personality from like my stage persona. And some people are very different.
Yeah.
Like some people, like you meet them in real life and they're just like super like sweet and shy. And then their stage persona is like, oh yeah, like fuck me. Like, I don't know.
100%.
But for me, I feel like Dutch Baby is just me.
That's right.
It's hard to separate.
And you're 100% right. Like there's a people that their persona is so different from their real life, either as compensation, either as separation. But it is good to hear because like the last few guests that I've had on the pod is more like that. It's like, oh, on stage I am this, but off stage, nope, no makeup, don't want to talk to nobody. So that's kind of it's good to see this breadth of expression and how people really interact with their art forms and their passion. So goofy, ridiculous.
I have a few Monty Python acts. A big go-go move I do when I'm at Lucky is I wet my thumb with water, or I like lick my thumb or something, and then I smack a dollar on my forehead and it sticks.
Yeah.
And the other day I did that and some guy came up to me. He was like, "Oh, we got a silly one." And I was like,
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, you do.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. I was gonna say yeah, and I think that's what I like the most about particularly your acts is we're the it's good that the proliferation of burlesque, particularly in New York, is rampant. Every other bar will probably have, if not a burlesque night, a month. It'll be every week. So more and more people are into it, which is great, and it's becoming a little bit more mainstream, which is great. And more diverse people are doing it, which is great.
There's a such a scarcity mindset in the community, and that I really don't fuck with. I feel like there's like people have the mindset that there's like a super limited number of gigs and only like you have to like beat out the competition. But I'm a huge fan of like, if you want to do, or if you want to be in a burlesque show, produce one.
But I think it's also the mindset of the scarcity mindset because they limit the types of venue that they would want to be in. Because if you just, there's so many bars right now. But of course, if you're looking for, hey, you want an actual venue with an actual stage with a lightman and a DJ and a rough before a real show.
Yeah.
Sure, there's not a lot of those coming around. But if you just want to work on your stuff or want to perform in front of, friends and family.
People forget that people do this for fun. Not everybody has to be a career burlesque performer, and not everybody has to treat it, like obviously there's like expectations when you come to a burlesque show, like certain etiquettes, and especially when it comes to like how much you should be paying people, paying your kittens fairly, et cetera, et cetera. But I think like we often forget that this is a hobby for a lot of people, and that is okay.
And it could be a hobby forever. It could be a hobby to start.
Yeah.
But that's the reason why, whenever you're on the bill, I love it because I know it's going to be fun. And people are taking a lot of these shows sometimes a little too seriously. I like a little bit of seriousness. I like a cause, a just positive cause. That's always fun. So like I'm entertained and I'm also helping a cause. That's great. But sometimes I just want to sit down, have a good laugh, have some hot people do some weird stuff that I would never do with a beer and with my friends. And that's a good night. And I think a good balance of both is great. So, I personally thank you for doing your show. It's great.
Thank you.
I'm super duper entertained. But a little bit more into that. It's like, so you're producing shows, you're performing in a lot of shows, you're out there now. People know who Dutch Baby is. You got
Which is
fans.
horrifying, but very exciting.
That's the other thing too. So, what is the dream? What is the goal? Maybe not in just burlesque, but in your performance art, in your passions in general. What is the goal to be in or to be at?
So I'm feeling super fortunate because I feel like I've recently achieved.
There you go.
My
Congratulations.
thank you very much. But the one thing I've always wanted in my life was to be a full-time performer and to sustain myself financially 100% off of
Performing.
acting and performing.
Amazing.
And I've done that. I am there now. And I never thought I would be here. Like, and it's crazy because now I'm like, oh shit, I can make new dreams and new aspirations. So I guess like I would love to see my name like on a marquee somewhere. That would be pretty sick. I would love to be in a TV show that people know. I would love to be I would love to perform at the Dutch Burlesque Festival.
There you go.
I saw they were taking applications, and I didn't submit this past year, but I was like,
next year,
Dutch Baby belongs at the Dutch Burlesque Festival.
Next year it's gonna be there. It's like, hey, it might be like the standards might be a little higher because your name is right there already.
Oh yeah.
So 1/3 of the name is yours. Dutch Burlesque Festival, Dutch Baby. You might have to be a little bit higher on the bill, but we wish you luck. But I heard that a little bit. It's like you said, like now that you're there, now that you have fans, now you have like people following you around, going to your shows, a little bit horrifying. Any horror stories?
Yes.
Give us whatever that you can share.
Oh my God. So there was this one guy who saw me perform at a burlesque thing, and I was go-go dancing. So a little scandy, a little scandy. I'm not afraid to shake my butt. And, you know, sometimes men treat burlesque events like, you know, like a strip club. And, you know, there's time and place for that.
There are the thing, they might be tangential, but again, it's context too. It's like that's I understand why some people might confuse certain venues or certain shows like that, but when when you're in a burlesque show, you're in a group of people, and you know the audience is different. Like the things that the interaction is different than when you're in a go-go bar or when you're in a strip club or when you're in a different type of bar.
Yeah. And obviously, like you always, I guess I shouldn't say was treating it like a strip club because consent is always the question.
Yeah.
But like, you know, like getting a little handsy, you have to be like, oh, like, please stop touching me. Well, this guy, I guess, thought that we had some sort of relationship that we didn't have. And then found my professional acting website with my real name, my government name, came to a show that my parents came to, and started talking to my parents.
Wow.
And my parents actually don't really, like, they know tangentially that I'm a burlesque performer. I don't, you know, like, I don't need to tell them about all my ass shaking activities. I love and respect my parents, which is also why I try to keep a lot of it 100%. Off of social media. Like I love and respect my parents and would never want to have like relatives ask them questions or things like that. But he found my parents at the show and like started introducing himself to my whole family and he was like, I met your daughter at well, let's just say I know her very well. Oh. And I was mortified.
That's the thing, you know, it is part of, you know, it's part of the profession. Like when you're out there, you know, anybody, like, you know, us included, when you put yourself out there, there's always risk that, you know, information around you can be used in multiple different ways. But you're 100% right. It's not that, you know, I don't want to speak for you, but like it's not that you'd be ashamed of what the things you do with your parents, but with some respect, you understand, like, you know, my parents still don't know that I say bad words. Yeah. And when they're around, I try not to say bad words.
I think that's been the most difficult part of my journey as a burlesque performer is like, imagine you have a baby and you raise this baby. You try your best to protect this baby. Now imagine your baby putting itself in situations that you deem as dangerous or something that could damage their reputation or et cetera, et cetera. Like, I don't blame, and I wouldn't blame my parents for being uncomfortable. Yeah. Like, I don't necessarily want my dad to come to the slipper room and be like throwing money at me. Like, that's weird. Yeah.
I mean, some performers have friends, relatives, and parents like that. Some are a little bit more different, conservative, but that doesn't mean you're loved less.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just like we all have our own tastes and boundaries. It's weird that my mom loves my nudie shots. I am uncomfortable. It's like, stop liking my nude shots. Right?
Yeah.
Like, why are you looking at my, you know, like, why those photos? But I also understand, like, if it's my dad, no, it's like, all right, no. Like, if you know, when I'm around certain people, you're not phony, but you just try to adjust to, again, context. Right?
Yeah.
You have friends and you have family members, like, yeah, sure, like, it doesn't, you know, they understand, doesn't matter, but you know, they haven't lived this life yet, and they don't understand. You know, yes, there are dangers, but there's also an amazing community, people that love each other,
For
expression
sure.
of art. There are risks, but yeah, I am. It sucks that you had to go through that, and you know, there's always a possibility that things around that might happen before. But hopefully, like, yeah, letting people know through avenues like this, so you're not supposed to remind people to be respectful because you're just supposed to be respectful. But we're here now to like just teach people that it's
Uh,
it's respect, consent, just human decency.
What's so crazy too is this particular person. I went to my friend's birthday party, which was at Pumps.
Mm.
For those on the pod who maybe not living in
In New
New
York.
York City, it's a strip club in Brooklyn,
Yep.
and one of my very good friends is a dancer there.
Mhm.
And it was her birthday shift. I wanted to go hang out, and I heard the dancers talking and like describing this man. He's like,
Oh.
"Oh, short, middle part." And I was like, "Hey, not to like totally interrupt your conversation, but is his name blah blah blah?"
Mhm.
And they looked at me and they were like, "Oh my god,
Yeah.
how do you know?" And I was like, "I just do."
Oh my! So well, we hope that we as people in the community, whatever community, it's our responsibility. We are also responsible for the people that are not only for the people that are doing great, but also not doing well. So either protect yourself from people like those, tell people to veer away. For the people closer to that person, hopefully at some point they'll kind of like teach them the ways a little bit more. But it
Yeah.
is scary, dangerous around there. But thank you for sharing that. Again, I hope it
Always stay
does.
safe
Yeah,
out there, kids.
I hope it doesn't happen in the future. But along the same lines, and again, this is still a photography podcast. What I like asking friends, acquaintances, guests here is I know people are different in terms of being able to work with and collaborate with professionally, but even more when you add the factor of art and subjectivity, you know, there's so many variables to put to provide people with formulas for good. But I like to know what would make a good collaborative environment when working with somebody like you or Dutch Baby themselves? Like, what makes a good environment to produce good stuff in?
Yeah. Risk taking,
Mm-hmm.
honesty.
Yeah.
You have to be super honest
Mm.
with I come from a theater school background. And I had to take a lot of devising classes, and devised theater is like when you get a big group of people and like maybe there's like a work like a book, and you want to create like a dance piece from
Mm.
or like a movement piece from this
Mm.
piece of text. Like you get together and you devise a piece of art. So I like to remain open to people's ideas, try everything, even if you're like, oh, that's not gonna work. Like, try it. Why not? Why don't you think it's gonna work?
Huh.
I don't know, just openness and similar goals.
Got it.
Like I love getting paid, and I love the money.
Yeah.
But in a burlesque space, that is not my ultimate goal. My ultimate goal is to create the best work I
Yeah.
possibly can, and to make a piece that I'm proud of, and through that, eventually you'll reap the financial benefits.
Mhm.
But just having similar goals, like why are we putting this
Yeah.
show on? Why are we doing this?
Mhm.
What brings us here?
Got it. No, that's it's good to hear from somebody that has the actual technical academic background around the creation process. Again, a lot of us, myself included, self-taught. We just do things the way that we think are good. We try our best, but sometimes like I don't devise sounds improv to me.
Devised theater.
Devised theater.
Yeah.
Why would I create something from a book in a circle of people? Like, but that's the thing. It's like these are exercises not a lot of people would have. And it's good to know that it's out there now that, to share those expertise around to, again, collaborate because it's not just for burlesque, not just for photography. Like if you're working an office job, like you are still collaborating, you are still creating with your friends and creating a space conducive for good work is
Absolutely.
most important. Speaking of good work, again, still a photography podcast. I ask my guests to send me or describe to me their favorite image, and then I love dissecting it with them, asking the story around it. And Dutch sent me this delightful blue background burlesque fun shot, and even without the watermark, that it's always there. I already knew who shot it.
Yeah.
It's
Oh
like,
yeah.
it's and but again, why is this blue image, which is now on your screen right now? You see it somewhere here in the middle. There you go. Right. And then it's gonna be also linked in the podcast description. And you see the high res version of it. But why is this picture of? I hope I'm not mistaken. This is Albert shot.
Oh
Right?
yeah.
Okay,
Absolutely.
sweet. Albert Cadabra at I really hope you win.
It's
on
like
Instagram.
at letter I,
I.
lowercase, really,
Really?
hope, letter U, lowercase, win.
Win. On Instagram, we'll link that here as well. A lot of our other previous guests have shared some of their images of Albert as well. So
We live so close.
Yeah.
Like I'm practically his neighbor.
Yeah.
So like sometimes he'll like text me and be like, I'm bored, want to shoot? And I'm
There
like,
you go.
yeah, like I'm heading over. But I think this is my favorite shot. First of all, I finally understood that I'm a winter.
winter.
I did like a seasonal analysis on my skin and hair and
Oh,
like my undertones, and I am a winter.
so the cold makes you glow more.
I guess.
Wow.
Um,
Most people dry up. So it's good that you're a winter. You found that.
I found that out. That corset has been sitting in my closet for years. Like I've had that basically since I was like 18, 19 years old. And when for that shoot, I was like, you know what? Like, let's whip it out. And it's just so joyful to like, I don't know. It's just a very joyful shot. I got ready also in like 20, 30 minutes.
Those
And
are the
I was
best.
so like, oh, I bet I'm gonna look terrible. And then I saw the shot, and I was like,
Okay.
oh, no, I'm gonna use this for everything.
It looks great. When I was reviewing the shot, and while we were shooting our first shoot together, we also in our shoot had a pink or a coral backdrop shot as well. I mentioned to you that I'm very bad at colored backdrops.
Which I find hard to believe.
It's not something that, because for me, I photography for me is unlike you guys, where your art form is your passion. You guys will bleed and die for it. Again, working 3-4 jobs just to do the fifth, sixth job, which is burlesque or performance or acting, whatnot. I'm the opposite. Once photography gets hard, I'm out.
Really?
The reason why I have a day job, the reason why, again, that's photography is also not my day job. Because for me, it balances out. I have a very technical, technically consuming or brain consuming day job. Working photography is such a release and such an escape, but it's also a 100% representation of what my soul is. My soul is black. I like black. I like working with black.
Are you in therapy?
I've been in therapy before therapy was cool.
Okay,
Right?
great. As long as it's like like we've accepted like
Yeah,
the darkness,
but-
like it's not like gloom.
Yeah, well, darkness, perfect way to say it. It's not gloom. Well, it kind of is gloom, but darkness doesn't mean to be like negative, bad, or angry or evil. It's just like the unknown or the unseen. I like more. I like hiding stuff more because your brain tends to kind of fill in the gaps. So when I shoot my more risque shots, some people say that I have more clothes on, or when I shoot my subjects nude, they have more clothes on than when they have lingerie on. Right? So that's kind of like that's very flattering for my work, exactly what I wanted to work with. But it's also like your mind fills in the shadows and sort of, what does it look like? Maybe it's sexier than it actually is. Maybe
Yeah.
it's not. Maybe they find themselves in the darkness. So that's always been, so black has been my number one color and somewhere I'm the most comfortable with.
I've never had a photographer use a black background before. This was my first time. I was like, oh,
We're used to black now all
that's
the time.
fun.
And then I started doing white because again, it's just like opposite of black, it's a little bit easier. But more importantly, on colored backdrops, it's harder to control the shadow on the back, which we can see in this shot right now. You know, we live in New York. We don't have as much space, so this is going to be the technical part of the episode. Is the reason why I find it difficult to have colored backdrops is the way to make a shot look more professional in a studio setup is if the subject shadow is not on the backdrop but on the floor. We can't do that when you only have 10, 15 feet of space, maybe less in a living room. So a lot of the photographers in New York, the Albert Cadabra, I really hope you win, the Desiree Desads, all of our shots will have that backdrop, which is kind of like a New York thing now. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, good. Because like, you know, if you go through school and, or like I've sat into photography school and they say like if you can't kill the shadows, just don't shoot it. It's like, but I live in New York. Even if I had 500 lights, I don't know where to put the other lights there. I have a wall there. So it's really good that you love that shot because it's super cool. It looks fun. You always look great.
Thank you.
You're on the floor, which is, you know, I think because you're so long, which is kind of great. It's so great.
I got limbs.
I love the limb. This is great. It's like, you know, no worries about reaching anything anywhere.
I
Great.
do run into the issue though sometimes shooting with my friends who have low ceilings.
Yeah, no.
I'm like bonking my head or like my head is like brushing up against the what's that called? The drop thing.
The backdrop?
The backdrop.
Yeah.
Like the roll where it's on. And or sometimes people's lights like can't extend high enough. And they're like, oh.
It is it's weird that, you know, I rarely have encountered the height. It's maybe I've only had a few 6-footer models where I just have to fit you in and don't have to worry the proportions because on the opposite end, most normal size models, everybody wants to look taller and longer and slimmer, so you shoot lower. So that's why, you know, I'm on the floor, I'm sitting on my couch, do like that, work the angles. So it's like, all right, so this is not you're already long, you're already tall, I don't have to do anything. You just have to make sure that when you raise your hands, it's not going to reach the top of my roll, and that's it.
I used to have a slouching problem,
Oh.
and I had a lot of people be like, "Why are you doing that?
No.
Like you look like a shrimp."
I think we're at the point now where maybe a couple of years ago, even though people say that height is not a problem, I think people now are at least more accepting of it. Like, just if you're tall, work your tall.
Work your tall.
If you're short, you're shit out of luck. Right? That's just how it works in this life. But
when I'm on the bar at Lucky's, the first thing everybody asks me, like all the guys at the bar, they're like, can I ask you a question? And I'm like, how tall am I? They're like, yes, how tall are you?
Well, for me, it's just like the hazard of because you're already tall, you're gonna be on the bar. The bar has hanging chandeliers of old repurposed Jack Daniels whiskey bottles that'll hit a lot of people a lot of times already.
Yeah.
So
You gotta have some spatial awareness.
there you go. But all right, so that's your favorite shot again. I love it. The blue, you know, one of the you know, Alberts, Desiree's, you know, people that have been shooting a lot of the other people in nightlife and in burlesque, doing a lot
Mom
more-
and dad.
yeah, a lot of these like colored backdrops. It's never gonna be my thing. It's just because like I think that a lot of other people can do it better, but I'm getting a little bit happier with how we use the coral, and I cannot wait to work on your shots and share our shots. But this is good to know that like it's a fun share of an image because not only is it kind of like it was the ease of the creation of it. You're nearby, it's your neighbor, shots worked out well, and it's an old corset that you haven't used. So
Yeah.
all those factors, I think, came in to become like your favorite image.
Absolutely.
Delightful. Well, I've run up, unfortunately, ran out of topics to talk with Dutch, even though as much as I would want to keep her for 16 hours more. They have a lot of other better things to work on. But
I do not. I do not. Oh my gosh.
we will do the shoot one more time. We'll redo the shoot.
Do it again.
But again, thank you very much for your time. This
Thank you
is
for having me.
not just being a gracious guest on the pod, sharing your experiences with us on how to collaborate well, things to avoid, and some horror stories there. But even just like the actual shoot, I've been dreaming to shoot Dutch for a very, very long time, but I'm very bad at talking to strangers. So luckily at some point, like,
and I felt like I was ignoring you, and I'm so sorry because I get so I think burlesque dancers, we get so many DMs that are like, I'm a photographer, I'm a photographer,
Yes.
I'm a photographer, and after a while, like, you don't even read the usernames, and you're like, oh, okay, because like obviously I know who you are.
Yeah.
I've met you in person.
yeah. Well, I could have just like walked up to you. It's like on the show, it's like, yo, let's shoot. But again, people sometimes, like the same way that people think that all burlesque performers are sexy extras, like no, like I may shoot a lot of people, but I don't like talking to people. Like, I'm very scared of people. People scare me. I like persons, but groups of people, like in a crowded bar.
Can't relate.
Uh,
No, that's not a flex.
you love everyone. That's great.
But the thing is, sometimes the one-on-one freaks me out.
Oh,
Like if I'm just with one person, I'm
I
like,
get that.
oh, now you're gonna ask me like actual shit about my
Real
my
life.
real life.
Yeah.
I might have to get vulnerable.
What? Feelings? You don't have to-
Feelings?
You can lie.
Or I feel like sometimes I have to entertain
Oh, no.
too. I mean, I'm a performer. Like,
100%.
and if it's a small group or one-on-one, sometimes I find myself like being the circus monkey. Like, keep the conversation going. Like, oh, so good.
I love the small groups because that's what I like listening. If it's too crowded, there's too many people, I don't know what to listen to, or worse, like if you listen to something interesting and you butt in the conversation, I always feel like it's this creep sneaking into our conversation, right?
I need to learn how to listen better.
I like
I'm always learning.
a dinner group, like 4 to 8 people, I'm a crush. More than 12 people, I'm a little bit scared. But yeah, I totally understand. Like maybe like a group of 3 or 2, maybe that's a little scary. But sometimes at least you'll have a good drink and a good meal. It's easy, that cuts on the awareness. But
Yeah,
again, like you're the best.
you're the best.
Before we go, you got a lot of shows. Tell the people where they can find you, and
Yeah, absolutely. So firstly, you can come find me in Times Square. Come see me, maybe kill somebody, maybe not kill somebody. I actually don't have any shows coming up in December to my knowledge, but I'll be on the bar at Lucky 13 Saloon. And you can follow me on Instagram at _Dutch_baby_. I'm on private because I got hacked super badly. So I had to make my username a little bit more conspicuous, and you can request me, but I'll let you in.
Yeah. I think that's better because now people who want to see you and follow you really wants to see you and follow you.
Yeah.
That's right. So, and then the links will be down below. I highly encourage you guys to give her a follow on Instagram. Grab a drink at Lucky's. It's a fun place to be at. People they may look scary, but very nice. They're very nice.
Metalheads are teddy bears.
They look like they're gonna eat you up or run you over by their bikes, but they're actually the nicest people in the world. And if you really just want like a fun show, eventually there's going to be Double Dutch again, be on different other shows. We're gonna amplify because like this is gonna be the best. So again, Dutch, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you guys for watching. And this is first episode of 2025. I don't think I can make it any better. Like I got lucky, so you guys got lucky. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends. Again, thank you very much for watching.
Mwah.